Finding Vivian Maier is a documentary that tells the incredible but true story of a woman who worked for decades as a nanny and somewhat secretly took tens of thousands of photographs, over 150,000 photographs, and kept them hidden away in storage lockers, never really sharing them with others during her lifetime. And they were discovered upon her death, and she is now hailed as one of the great photographers, and certainly great street photographers, of the 20th century.
Did you find her during the process of making this film?
Well, I would say that the discovery that we made in making the film and in tracking down people who knew Vivian was that we had Vivian completely wrong. I think we started out with this idea that Vivian was a nanny who somehow accidentally managed to take all of these photos and they turned out to be great. That Vivian was a nanny who somehow lucked into this incredible photography. And what we discovered was that that was 180 degrees wrong. We discovered that Vivian, at her core, was an artist. That's who Vivian truly was. She wasn't a nanny who happened to take pictures. She was a brilliant artist, a photographer, a master, who happened to be a nanny. And she used her job as a nanny as almost a camouflage for her true calling, which was to take pictures. And she did this for year after year, decade after decade, without ever really sharing her work and getting recognition. And what's incredible is that she was able to continue to do the work of a master artist without the support of any institutions, without the support of galleries or a book editor commenting on her work, without audiences seeing her work, collectors or patrons helping to pay for it all. She did it all on her own and never stopped. And what we learned was that that's who Vivian was. She was a true artist. In telling Vivian Maier's story, and in working with John Maloof, who discovered her photographs, and he's obviously a very big part of the film, and also co-directed it and produced it with me, we wanted to tell this incredible story of discovery the way it felt for us. When John discovered her work, he had no idea who Vivian Maier was, and he only learned after, seeing the photograph and assuming that it was the work of a great photojournalist or artist. It wasn't until he started to make phone calls and found people who knew her that he learned that she was a nanny. And that seemed incredible and unlikely. Not because a nanny can't be a great artist. Clearly she was. But just that it was unexpected. I mean, in fact, there are artists like Franz Kafka who, worked in an accounting firm. It's not entirely surprising that a brilliant artist should be spending her time as a nanny, but learning the facts of how that actually happened felt to us like an incredible story. Here this woman had juggled these two identities, really, because she kept her work as an artist very private from the families that she was with, while maintaining this other life as a nanny, living in people's homes in close proximity to them. And this seemed like a great detective story at the time, and that was really how we experienced it, finding people who knew her, looking through her belongings that were left behind, searching for answers to this riddle that was this woman's life. And one of the big questions, obviously, was how did this happen? How did she become such an accomplished artist and yet never share her work with anyone?
How satisfied do you feel that the film has basically served as a large spotlight on her work? I think you must agree that nothing spreads the word quicker than film.
I think that's true, but there have been a lot of articles written about the story itself before the film, and as we were making the film, there were even stories, because John was not only trying to learn more about who Vivian Maier was, and there was a lot of detective work that we did in telling that story, but John was also, interested in sharing her work with the world and wasn't waiting for the film to come out to do that. I mean, he was kind of a man on a mission to put Vivian Maier in the history book, and from the beginning. And so it wasn't just that we wanted to make a film about Vivian Maier, but we wanted to document the process of her getting the recognition that we felt she so, richly deserved. And, it was not certain at the time when we started out on the film, it wasn't certain what the outcome would be. I mean, there was a chance that all of this work that John was doing would not amount to anything, really. It was entirely speculative. I think he had good instincts without knowing a whole lot about the photography world that this was great work. But he educated himself and looked to other experts to have that, opinion validated. And it turned out that people agreed that this was great work, and people started to compare her to some of the great photographers of the 20th century. And so I think, documenting that process as it unfolded was part of the drama of the film, and we didn't really know where it would go. And I think the final chapter on that has not been written. I think, we will see whether institutions respond in the same way that people have. In some ways, people have done an end run around the museums and the other cultural institutions that play a kind of gatekeeping function and decide, which artists, I guess, join the canon, right? But in this case, partly because of the Internet, and in large part because of the Internet, Vivian's photographs have been seen widely and around the world, and people have started to claim Vivian Maier's work and Vivian's story for themselves, without waiting for institutions to get on board.